Good evening and welcome to ThaiPBS World. For the first time in 3 months after the pro-democracy protests broke out in Hong Kong, its chief executive, Carrie Lam, has moved to respond to some other demands put forth by the demonstrators. But her offer to withdraw the controversial extradition bill, but without addressing their other demands, has evidently failed to pacify the protest leaders who have described her latest gesture as something too little, too late. Yesterday, we talked to one of Thailand's leading experts on China, Dr. Arm Tangniran of the Faculty of Laws of Chulalongkorn University, for his view on how things will develop on the troubled island from this point on.
Fellow citizens,
today is the first time that Carrie Lam addresses the demands made by the pro-democracy movement. Of course, she is far from making a compromise, because of all the 5 demands, she responded to only one of them. That is the withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill, right? So what do you think she expected to achieve from her message today?
If we look at the protesters' comments, they all say that it's too little, too late. Because as you mentioned, she only addressed one of the 5 demands. And actually, the withdrawal of the bill, she just used the term that the protesters wanted her to use. For a long period of time, she has already said that, she suspended the bill, she already killed the bill, it would not be considered in the Legislative Council anymore. So we said that, it's very, very little compromise because it's just the use of words, right? The terms withdrawal.
Yeah. And in her speech, she also talked about setting up a platform for people, that in her own words, people from all walks of life to have a dialogue. Do you think this will be something that would be acceptable to the demonstrators?
The first is that she tried to say that this protest and this struggle is not only about politics. So it's not only about a call for election, a call for universal suffrage, but that there are underlying economic and social concerns, right? And then this platform that she talked about is about trying to study the economic and social problems of the people. The second interesting thing about this is that in her talk, she mentioned that she would involve academics, community leaders, right, and then the people of Hong Kong. But she did not really address the protesters, right? I think that the main point in her remark is that she tried to say that this is not a political problem, but it's economic and social problems.
It looks like she was trying to suggest that the protesters will not be the only group of people that she will talk to, right?
Well, she didn't even use the term, the protesters, right, or the students. The only term that's relevant in her remark is community leaders, right? And then she said she would reach out to the civil sectors of Hong Kong. But I think, if we look at her remark, we would say that a very small compromise to the protesters.
Do you think she is trying to sort of reach out to the larger sectors of the society in Hong Kong, so that the whole thing will not be sort of monopolized by this pro-democracy, the movement only, right?
Yes. Well, I think that at the peak of the protest, we say that 1 out of 4 Hong Kong residents joined the protest, right? It's reached 1 million people. Even though the protesters, many of them are hardcore, very progressive, but there's a large group of common Hong Kong residents who also joined the protest. And yes, I think that she wants to reach out to these people. We know that your concerns are not so much about elections or the one country problem or the political problem. We know that your concerns are about housing, about Medicare, right, about all these social issues. And then right now, the government will respond to these concerns.
Do you think the threat of the Chinese Communist leadership using force to break up or to end the demonstration is still there?
Well, I think it's always there. But if you ask me, there's not a high chance of that's happening, very little chance. because from my perspective, no one wins, right? Because it's not good for the Chinese Communist Party and it's not good for Hong Kong. But of course, right, we have to understand that the current Chinese leadership is very nationalistic, right? So you know, if they think there's a real threat to national security here, there's always a chance of using the force.
So what do you expect to see next after Carrie Lam's message today? Of course, the hardcore protesters will not give up easily, right? But what about the majority of the people in Hong Kong? You think the message from her today resonate? I mean, well with the larger groups of people?
Well, I think it resonates to a certain group of people, but I think the core people is the young generation of Hong Kong that she actually need to reach out to, right? And I think that from her remark today, it's not clear that she successfully reached out to this group of people, right? And I think that from looking at interviews of this youth who participate in the protest, it seems that a lot of their concerns have not been responded. Before Carrie Lam announced today, yesterday, I think Xi Jinping made a remark to the party school in China, the Communist Party school, and he said very clearly, on principle, China will never compromise in regard to Hong Kong or Taiwan, but on tactics, China is open to flexibility, right? So I think even Xi Jinping and then Carrie Lam, they try to pacify the atmosphere. But I think that, you know, the key to the success is not only to reach out to the common residents of Hong Kong, but also to the young generation of Hong Kong.
I mean, we Thai people have had our share of political division, right?
Yes.
And many Thais have been watching what happens in Hong Kong with some very extreme views also. So how do you think Thai people should learn from what is happening in Hong Kong?
I think the division is real, very real in Hong Kong, and it reflects a deep division in society similar to the case of Thailand. One major contributing factor to this is the different media narratives, right? If you are the ones who follows Beijing's media narratives, you will say that, oh, it's all these young protesters provoking the police, right? But if you are following the protesters and their narratives, you will say, oh, it's all this police brutality against the protesters, right? And I think it's also similar, right, to the division, the deep-rooted division in our country, that each faction follow their own narratives and their own media. And I think that we need to remind ourselves always to look from different perspectives, and then to say that a lot of things are very complex. It's not only a political issue, but it's also, you know, it has social, economic, and other dimensions also.
That was Dr. Arm Tangviran of the Faculty of Law of Chulalongkorn University, and his views on how things will develop in Hong Kong from this point on. And that's all for Thai PBS World tonight. Thank you for watching.